believe in the supernatural, they believe in gods, they believe in all sorts of things. This is going to be a very powerful tool, and I'm excited to be here today to share it with you. It works. Good. Okay. All right. A little bit about myself. I'm not from San Antonio originally. I grew up in the Midwest, but I've been living in Texas since 1995. I've lived in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio since 2000. Married in 2000, and we have 2 kids. They're 14 and 16. One just started driving, so that's pretty fun. I came to grips with my atheism like at a very young age. I was kind of a skeptical kid. I didn't believe it, even as a youngster. And that horrified my parents. They raised us Catholic. They raised us Christian. And I was the oldest of 4, and they were a little worried about my affecting the others in the family. So they didn't talk about it that much, but I was a skeptical person. I just went along with it because it seemed important to them. Well, as my kids started getting older, they started asking the big questions of life. What happens when you die? Johnny says I'm going to go to hell if I don't believe in God. That's when it started dawning on me the importance of being out as an atheist and coming to grips with, like, what do I believe? What do I want my kids being exposed to? And I became active as an atheist. I joined FACT. I started reading books. Dawkins came through Austin and I went to his dinner and met with Dawkins. It was a great thing. But I made a huge mistake. When I came out as an atheist to my family, even though I never really believed it, I came out on social media and I was posting memes and arguing with my loved ones, with my family, with my friends. And surprise, surprise, I harmed a lot of relationships with those folks. A lot of my close family members, they don't really want to deal with me even today because I was so aggressive with them when I came out. And I'll get into why it's okay to be an angry atheist, but I'm raising that because I want you to be aware of a potentially better way of interacting with people who believe in things to their lives. So I want to take just a quick step back, and I want to talk about truth. Like, we live in this age where somebody can just say, well, that's not true. It's fake news. This is a huge problem in today's world. How do we figure out what's true? How do we help people take a look at the beliefs that they think are true and get them to possibly change their mind or lower their confidence in what they think is true? This is a huge problem. And I think street epistemology, and I'm going to get into what street epistemology is, I promise. But I think street epistemology might be a great way of helping people think about the beliefs that they formed and possibly back them off on their certainty. And that could be really important. This is not to say that us atheists are super skeptical and we haven't figured it all out. We may be just as in the dark as the next person. But I think this tool can be used for anybody. Anybody can use street epistemology with anybody else. Just because we're atheists and this started in the atheist community doesn't mean that it has to sit there. I want to encourage everyone to learn this tool so that they can use it on us, because I think it will drive us towards the truth. All right, does anyone recognize this by any chance? That's in front of the album. This was I think 2013 when I wanted to do something. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to help people see that there's no good reason to believe in a God. So I went out with a camera, a GoPro, and I started engaging with the street preachers in front of the Alamo. Now, I'm showing this example. This is not an example of street epistemology. This is an example of what I used to do. This is an example of something that many people here might do. We probably argue with people, we try to present them with facts, and maybe even ridicule them. So I'm going to show this example here. It's like a minute and a half long. There will be subtitles underneath it, and if you can't hear, maybe move up, or everyone just be a little bit quiet, but I think you'll be able to hear it. I'm engaging with the street preacher here, and this is not street epistemology.
Jesus says, my mother and my brethren are these which hear the word of God and do it.
You said that right.
We have the word of God. It's in the King James Bible. It's not the Book of Mormon. It's not the Kabbalah. It's not the Babylonian Talmud. It's the word of God. There's the King James Bible.
There's just as much evidence for those gods than there's your God. Yes, there is. There's zero evidence.
The scripture says Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners.
That's what it says, but why should we believe it?
Today.
Why should we believe
Are
that?
you saved? Not are you a Mormon or a Baptist or a Catholic or a Methodist, but are you saved? The Bible says we must be saved. Jesus saved me in 1987, in the month of December, and I'm not going back to what I was. I'm no better than anybody else, but my friends, as a street preacher, I gotta warn you, there is a hell, and you're going there, and you will not repent.
There's absolutely no evidence for a hell or a heaven or a purgatory. There's no evidence for that at all.
You'll find out.
How could you believe in something now without even knowing that it's true? You point to the Bible again. There's no evidence that the Bible is true.
You don't believe it, dude?
Of course I don't. I'm not convinced that it is true.
Well, that's all right.
You're making the claim. You need to prove to me that it's true.
You have to prove to me anything.
Yes, you do. You can't stand out here and make claims as if it's a fact.
Right here, man.
And scare these people and young kids.
Hey, listen.
What's wrong with you?
So basically, you're always as charming as you are today.
You can tell I was a little perturbed about street preacher Phil being out in front of the Alamo. And I'm not entirely proud of that, but I like to surface it as an example of how I used to. Was I that aggressive with family? Actually, I was. If you look at some of my Facebook posts, I was a real jerk. This is not to say that that approach doesn't have its place. Look at the young couple there off to the right of Phil's shoulder. They were sitting there. There's actually a kid behind the sign too. There are people that were observing that may have been like, wow, that guy's really up in that preacher's face. Maybe this is all kind of messed up. It might change the minds of people observing that. But do you think it would change street preacher Phil's mind? Not at all. Not at all. He probably dug in more. He was probably edified in his view that his Bible was true because it survived the attack of some atheist who yelled at him in front of the Alamo. Street preacher Phil. And it kills me now because as I was editing this video, he told me why he believed it. Did you catch it? He was going through some hardship and he was struggling with alcoholism or something back in, he knew the day, 1987. That was the reason why he believed, but I completely missed it. I wanted to knock him down. And, I look back at it and I'm like, oh, I wish I did. So debate definitely has its place, but you have to ask yourself, what are your goals? Is my goal to have a conversation and change the mind, possibly, of the person that I'm talking to? Or do I want to change the minds of other people? So the debate and ridicule does have its place, but I need you to ask yourselves, what is your goal and what's your venue? What are you hoping to achieve? If you're having a conversation with your mom, or a sibling, or a close friend, you might want to change it up a little bit and use a different approach. Okay. Show of hands, who here has heard of street epistemology before in one way or the other? Maybe a third of the people here. Okay, great. So street epistemology is not something that I created. I read a book by a philosophy professor who wrote this book in like 2012 called Manual for Creating Atheists. He geared it towards the atheist community. He taught philosophy and all about Socrates, and this is based on the Socratic method. So I have 4 video examples here, I think it's 4, where I'm going to show you how I totally changed my tune, and I start engaging with people in a friendly way and asking questions. And it is what it is here. Here's the definition of it. In fact, I think I passed out some cards. The definition might differ just a little bit, but in a nutshell, it's a conversational tool that helps people reflect on the reliability of the method that they used. Not necessarily what they believe or why, but the method or the how. How did you get to that conclusion? Let's take a look at that and see if it's reliable. And it's not limited to God beliefs. This was born in the atheist community. I'm talking to a group of freethinkers here. It doesn't need to stay in atheism. I've had wonderful conversations. In fact, some of the examples that I'll show you, it wasn't about God at all. People think karma is real, and that everything happens for a reason, or or that red cars get more speeding tickets than other cars. I'm going to show an example here in a second where the topic is pornography. It is also not about telling somebody what to think. That's the big difference here with street epistemology. A lot of people think street epistemology, you have to go out on the street, you have to engage with somebody and maybe even film it. The people that do that are a very small minority, but they're the most visible, so people think, oh, with SE, you have to do it outdoors. No. Some of the best conversations I've had using street epistemology is when I was in an Uber, and the driver made some sort of offhand comment about, if you just think it, you can make it happen, that type of stuff. Okay, interesting. So I've had, the secret, the power of attraction, that type of stuff. So you can wait for the conversations to happen, or you can initiate them. My preference is organic. I would prefer to just organically happen. But I go out with a camera and I initiate talks with people. I do that right here in San Antonio. And I've been doing this for like the last 5 years. And then going around to all different places. I was in Oslo, Norway earlier this year, and Manchester, England, giving talks and workshops on this subject. Okay, so I was thinking, how can I show street epistemology in a graphical form? So I came up with this little pyramid. Okay, what, why, how? And you notice how the what part is a little smaller than the why, and the why is a little smaller than the how. This is sort of graduated in terms of importance. Yes, I want to understand what they believe. When they say that they think a ghost is real, I want to know what they mean by ghost. Do you mean an odor, or a visual thing, or what are you talking about? They may say, it's a sound that's coming from my kitchen. That's the ghost. Okay. You want to understand what they believe. You also want to understand why. Why do you think a ghost exists? They may say, in fact, I met a guy in the show who literally said this. I'm sure that there's a ghost, and it's my mom who passed away. Because on Friday night, we would always have pizza. And the drawer that you pull the pizza cutter out of makes a squeak. So we're sitting on our couch, it's Friday night, and we heard the squeak. It's a ghost. That was his why. So why is important also? You also want to make sure that that's really the reason why. A lot of people give you a reason, and it's not really the reason why they think it's true. So make sure that is the reason. But with street epistemology, the thing that I think it makes this unique is that we're focused on the how. How did you determine that squeak coming from your kitchen was your grandmother coming back as a ghost? How questions tend to cause people to stop and think a little bit. Here's another way of looking at it. In terms of somebody has a belief, they have reasons that support that belief, and then they have a method that supports the reason. We're interested in the method, we're interested in the how. That's street epistemology in a nutshell. We'll have time at the end for a Q&A too. And I'm thinking this will be like maybe 45 minutes total, and I have a guy timing me back there. How are we going to do this?
30 minutes.
Okay, awesome. So, I've got a couple of video examples here, because nothing sells street epistemology better than seeing it happen. I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face, but for you to see it, I think it will drive home what the heck I'm talking about. So, I've got an example here. This is Denzel. This is on the UTSA campus. Okay. He's walking around. Now, when I gave this talk, or a variation of this, at the American Atheist Convention in Oklahoma City this year, I warned the crowd, don't get so focused on pornography. I don't really care what your view is. Try to focus on what's happening in the dialogue. Okay? I said that, and then like somebody walked in, and then she kept coming in the hallway afterwards, and she was upset that I was giving them a hard time. So don't get fixated on the topic. Look at the mechanics of the conversation. So this is Denzel. University campus. He knows he's being recorded. I have a chest camera, and this is about maybe 10 minutes into a conversation. And there's an interesting reveal at the end, and I want to see if you can.
It's just the scientific evidence is just like any kind of drug. The first time you watch it.
Do you value scientific evidence?
Yeah, definitely.
If Denzel, if we can provide you, if I can provide you, or somebody that follows us closely, If I discovered some scientific evidence that showed that everything that you've just described very eloquently, it doesn't work in that way. They've interviewed 10,000 porn stars and 100,000 men and women, and the overall result suggests that it's a positive. All right? People feel better about themselves, they're living longer, marriages are actually prospering, crime is going down, like across the board. And I don't even know if that can even be measured, but if it could, if there was a reliable study that showed something completely different than what you're outlining just now, would you change your mind on it?
No, I wouldn't, because at the end of the day, I do value scientific evidence, historical evidence, and that kind of stuff. But then the heart of it, I'm a Christian, so I live by a set of principles.
So I've shown this clip in a previous talk that I gave for fact. So I apologize if you've seen that before, but it's a great example of somebody taking a position on something, but it not being based on scientific evidence. It would have been a waste of time if I provided him with one study that showed that he was mistaken. Because he has that stance because of some other reason. So when you're engaging with people, make sure that you're actually discussing the real reasons why they think something. So in this instance with Denzel here, he was believing it because he lives by a set of principles. He believes it because he believes that there's a God. So I immediately shifted the topic to why do you think the God is real? How did you determine that that's true? It would make no sense to go down that road to talk about pornography. And did you notice the pace of it? Like, I wasn't yelling at him like it was Street Preacher film. We were actually having a conversation, and I commended him for being so eloquent about it. Let me give you this hypothetical. What do you think about it? Street epistemology is about having a nice, respectful conversation where you're working together to figure out how they determine that something is true, and making sure that you're talking about the real reasons why they think it's true. So that's the Denzel. Has anyone heard of this term before, the backfire effect? A couple hands. Okay, some good hands. Yeah. You probably heard it because you were at one of my talks before. I don't know. Well, the backfire effect is a phenomenon that may or may not be a thing, but it seems like it's the case, where if you're having a discussion with somebody, they really think that the Earth is 6,000 years old. As skeptics, as seemingly, we think that we're rationally minded people, we're like, oh, I just have to give them this link to this article that shows that they found this evidence. Presenting somebody with evidence that shows that they're mistaken could drive them deeper into their view. It can result in the backfire effect. Not only will they possibly ignore your evidence, but they might believe what they believe with even more fervor. Now, there have been some recent studies to suggest that in some cases, people might accept your evidence. They might, but it doesn't tend to change their attitudes towards the views that they have. And that's a big difference. When we're using street epistemology, we want to circumvent the backfire effect. We want to be aware of this potential that if I ridicule you, if I present you with evidence that shows you're mistaken, you might ignore that and double down even more. And I think you'll start noticing this in the few more examples here that I showed. Okay. I don't just talk to young people on university campuses or street preachers in front of the Alamo. This was on a trail here in San Antonio. I think the recording here was probably in the 70s or something. He's a little hard of hearing, so I talk a lot of this. In this example, I picked this one example to share with you because sometimes when you're having a conversation with folks and you disagree with them, they might say something that upsets you, that causes you to chase the distraction and take you off the focus of getting down to the method of why they think that it's true. Twice in this conversation, Gordon says something that is it's like raw meat to an atheist. And when that happens during this conversation, the video will pause and I have a little ding, and it's like my face going like this, to drive home the point that that's the thing that we might normally chase, but it's important to set it aside and stay focused on driving to the foundation. So here's Gordon.
Why, Gordon, do you believe that God even exists?
Because I was brought up a Christian. I'm brought up to believe that. I mean,
How long have you had the belief?
since I was able to think. And it gets stronger as I grow older.
Interesting. Yesterday, I ran into a family that had a little 4-month-old baby. And they identified themselves as Christians. But they could have easily been Hindus, or Muslims, or pagans.
It doesn't matter, well, not pagans, but pagans are non-believers. But it doesn't matter what religion you come from or what your ethnicity is, as long as you believe in a supreme being, whether you call it Allah or God or Nehu or whatever, as long as you believe in the same being, it doesn't matter.
Let's say that little girl is raised to believe that there's no God.
Well, I feel sorry for her.
Would she be just as correct in her belief as you being raised with your belief?
Just as correct? No. I mean,
Why not?
because this was all created for us by God, and we look for eternal life. And that comes through salvation. And if you don't believe in God, then you can't have salvation.
Are you saying that if a child is raised to believe in a God, they're justified in having the belief? But if a child is raised to believe in no gods, they're not
The young
justified?
child has no concept of what's right or wrong at that point. They believe only what they're told. And so what they are taught in the first 5 years of life will probably be with them for the rest of their life, which is unfortunate.
Does anyone know something like Gordon by chance? I think this guy later revealed that nobody's ever questioned him about why he thought a God existed before. Until that day. That is a crime. I want you to learn this method so that when you see opportunities to engage with people about why they think something is true, whether it's karma being real, or I gave you tons of examples before, or they think a God exists, or that prayer works. These are opportunities to engage with people about why they think that that's true. Okay, the video stopped twice there. The first time he said something about pagans being non-believers. Pagans are not non-believers. But sometimes, for the sake of the conversation, we chase that rabbit. Like, oh, I need to correct him on that. It would have been a distraction, and we probably would have never gotten to that point at the end. He basically admitted that being raised, being taught that something is true, is rather unfortunate. That was the great takeaway there. The other thing he said is that something like, you can't be good without a God. Remember he said that? If you say that to me, my blood just starts boiling. I have to remind myself that they may not realize what they're saying and how insulting it is to people who don't believe. But I didn't chase it. I let it go. If you really wanted to, if you really wanted to explore that, we can discuss that. But I was trying to drive to his foundation to why he thought this God was real. And it revealed that he himself finds it unfortunate that people can be taught something is truth when it may not really be true. That's where, and this also shows that you can use this method with anybody, regardless of the age. Some people, this is actually kind of a controversial thing in the street epistemology community. Are there people that you don't talk to? Why would you talk to an old person? What are we talking about? Like, he might have kids, grandkids. This could be a beneficial conversation. So we can get into this in the Q&A. There are some criteria where we won't proceed, but this was fair game. And he ended up really liking the conversation. Okay, the angry atheist. When I came to grips with my atheism, like I told you, I lashed out to my friends and family, and I burned bridges. Looking back, I can see, and I see other people going through this angry atheist phase. But I can understand why we lash out at our loved ones. They taught us something that is probably not true. All right? There's a lot of baggage that comes with these beliefs. However, one thing that I'm noticing is that younger people, when I say younger, I mean high school, college age, street epistemology has been going on for 5 or 6 years now. It seems that people are being exposed to this method, and they're being able to manage their angry atheist a little bit better, and that's helping the relationships. So this is a really good thing. One more thing on the angry atheist thing. I think we have a right to be angry. We're talking a lot of stuff that's probably not true. But street epistemology seems like a good coping mechanism for that. What's kind of interesting is seeing, like I've uploaded, I don't know, 600, maybe 500 videos on my YouTube channel, including the ones that I'm sharing here with you tonight. People around the world are watching these examples and mimicking them, and then actually going out and doing this too. There's this whole movement now. There's a good 30 people uploading content, maybe 20. I'm probably exaggerating. But people who believe in a God, apologists, Christian apologists in particular, are noticing this method, and they're really worried about it. They're worried about it because I think they would prefer to have an angry atheist engage with them as opposed to a nice, friendly inquiry, like you see in the examples here. It kind of makes you wonder, like, why is that the case? Why would they prefer an angry atheist than a calm, inquisitive one?
They can write you off.
Pardon me?
They can write you off.
They can write you off.
If you're an angry atheist,
that's a good point. I think that's true.
don't listen to him.
I think they would much rather prefer to have a brawl and look at that angry atheist. They're lashing out because they have no morals and they're just a bad person. They are worried about street epistemology because it's polite and it seems to be effective in slowing people down and possibly lowering their confidence. All right. This is my second to last video. I have this example here. This is at the tail end of a conversation that I also had here in San Antonio with a guy who's out there with his wife, man and his wife there, and they're Christians of some flavor. But the guy in the blue shirt is getting pressured from a friend who's a Jehovah's Witness. So, he mentioned it at the start, he mentions it at the end of the conversation here. But during the dialogue, I was questioning him. What do you believe? Why do you think it's true? And how did you determine that it's true? And faith was his reason. Faith was his epistemology. Faith is oftentimes a method that people are using to conclude or know that the Holy Book is true, for example. So we had this wonderful conversation on 20 minutes long. This is the tail end of the conversation. And I want to share with you the typical reaction. I want to share with you the typical reaction when somebody is done engaging in a street epistemology-based conversation. It's a lot different than the street preacher film. This is a typical response. Here we go. Stephen at the top.
You got me thinking on that, and I'm not happy in those.
Nothing will make me happy. Okay.
Don't put it in.
I was going to say, I'll be watching for it. Yeah, hit me up. I'd really like to find out if there's a better way to conclude that this God exists, other than the reasons that you gave. Do you find that the reasons that you explained to me very great and very well?
That's a good question for my buddy. That's a good question for him.
Why?
Because he's so strong in his beliefs.
Mm.
You know, my buddy is guilty. He's so strong in his beliefs. I'm asking, hey, is there, how sure are you? And I'm asking him this question. I think we can ask him be similar to what I just did. But I'm going to ask him.
You know, I think would be really cool is if you were to learn about street epistemology, watch a couple of my videos, and then engage with your friends. Yeah. If you email me, I'll send you the link to my channel. And you can check them out.
All right.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. Lovely talk. Thank you. Bye.
I'm thinking now. I think I'm some work to do.
James, and street epistemology is largely about planting a pebble in a person's shoe so that they can think about it. It's not necessarily about changing their mind right away. These beliefs have been with people for a very, very long time. So they need time to mull it over and think about it. He said, I'm going to be thinking about this all day long. And he seemed to be grateful for the conversation. Did you also notice he was saying, like, I'm going to ask my friend, how can he tell? He was talking about that lower level, that method level of street epistemology. He was picking up that. It was the how questions that was making him think the most. And he was going to take it and possibly look at the street epistemology. When this conversation happened, my goals changed a little bit. I started thinking, okay, I want to have a conversation with somebody and challenge their what, why, and how. But I also want to teach them how to use this method. So I have a video example. It's 8 minutes long. It's a little long. So if you want to get a drink, it's fine. But the topic is the law of attraction. And I met these two people. I've never met them before. One person believes it, and the other one doesn't. So I asked the guy that does it if he wants to be my helper. And I teach him on the spot how to use this method. So here's our top here. That's how she goes. This was actually, what was this from? I think this was in May of this year, fairly recent. And we ended up talking for 2 hours. All of this footage is on my YouTube channel, but this is the 8 minutes that I wanted to share.
So the whole idea is to get people to slow down and think about the things that they think are really true.
That's why I don't believe in, I've never believed in the power of attraction. Well, I have before, but I definitely don't now. I think it's a big old BS. I don't think, like that.
You believe in it and you don't. Can I teach you street epistemology? And we can do it with your friend, right? Okay. Okay, so that's great. So Kenneth will be the questioner and you'll be his conversation partner. Can you make your claim so that we can really understand what you believe?
Yeah, so I think law of attraction, if you truly believe 100%, it can't be 99, whatever. Whether it's your subconscious or, the universe playing its part, it will happen. You believe that?
I don't think so.
Okay. So hold on a second. So as someone doing street epistemology, we want to ask questions. Okay. We want to understand. So if we understand correctly, I think what you're saying is that if you believe something with 100% certainty that something's going to happen to you, that thing will actually happen. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is it? What power makes it happen?
I think your own self.
Is it the thoughts that make that happen? Is it the energy that makes it happen? What do you think?
Great question.
I think it's a mixture of both because as far as the thoughts, like let's just say I'll just create a goal, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, so, because I worked in real estate since I was like 18, and I've seen many people get into business and, kind of half-ass it and don't get very far. But then I've seen other people that really, they get pumped up by these coaches and blah, 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 and they take every advice that they give them, and they really believe that they're going to be number one. And it might not happen, 1 to 3 years, but their 4th or 5th year, they're the number one in production and they're reaching whatever. So I really think that if you don't believe that law of attraction, that you don't put all those thoughts that turn into energy around you, doesn't really lose it.
Hold on a second. Let's think of an example to see how far he's willing to go with this belief. Okay? Okay. So tell him, listen, dude, I don't believe you.
Yeah,
here's my question to you. Do you think that that's going to help him reflect on this belief? Yeah, it's okay to take a stance on it, but the idea here is to really explore how he figured out that this is true. So perhaps a good question might be something like, are there any limitations to this? Like, if I really put 100% confidence, not 100% confidence, if I really put 100%, I commit 100% to thinking that I can actually grow my hand longer than the other one.
There are limitations. Yes, there are.
There's no limitations.
Are there not limitations to everyone?
Why would there be a limitation with my hand growing but no limitation for something like becoming the best salesman in San Antonio.
Could you?
Well, listen. This is critical right here. See how he's thinking? Don't step on that pause.
I guess
do this too.
I guess it comes down to what we were talking about earlier, is like factor of belief, like.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, it makes sense of that. But I don't know, I guess. I don't know, like, I guess with your hand growing, I mean, I don't want to bring up the word science, but let's be real, like, you can't make your hand grow.
Even if I'm 100% committed myself to making that happen, using the law of attraction, it wouldn't happen. It only happens in some instances. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah.
What is it about those two requests that make them different? How do we know that there's even a law of attraction making the real estate thing happen?
I mean, you really don't know anything, but as far as the law of attraction goes, I think that there's a difference between growing your hand and like personal will. So,
how is the law of attraction limited? Why can't it be used for anything? If it can be used for this, why can't it be used for me wanting to grow my hand?
I guess like
we want to physically express
Marinate in the pause. Marinate in the pause. You almost want to help a person feel comfortably uncomfortable. Okay? That's where the reflection happens. Look at him looking. He's got the 1,000-mile stare here. That's gold. Okay? Have you ever thought about the law of attraction in this way before this talk?
No.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Guys, that was awesome. So that's the whole point, is to encourage reflection on things that we really think are true, but we don't actually know for sure. And just a little bit of extra questioning and a couple different scenarios, and sort of taking the belief and putting it under a microscope and being friendly and working with you to figure it out. Were you at a high 90 or something?
I would have said 100%, but I never took into consideration the things that, I mean, the uncontrollables. Like, you can't control your hand growth. You can't.
Yeah.
So, if you look at it in a certain size, it won't work ever.
With this discovery that you've made about this belief that you have, where are you right now in terms of your confidence that this belief is true?
Overall, or like, because I...
True. Thank you, gentlemen.
I used to work with, so it's like a real estate agency, the largest in the...
I'm going to beat that out, just so you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
They kind of teach you to, it's real estate, but they teach you to build your own business. By doing that, you have to build up other people.
Yeah, so here's my thing, like, I think it's conceivable. I know nothing about real estate. I could probably go to this class and study it for 3 years and think that I'm using the law of attraction because I'm 100% convinced that it's true, and I'm 100% dedicated that it's true. And I go to the class, and then I become like the best salesperson in San Antonio. I just kill it in real estate.
Yeah.
Would I be justified in saying that it was the law of attraction in doing so?
No.
What's that?
Not after our conversation.
And that is true epistemology.
Right at the climax of that, there was a big crash in the kitchen, but he was about 100% sure that the law of attraction was real. Normally at the start of the conversation, I ask a person to put themselves on a scale of confidence, and then he dropped to like a 50, just like by a 4-minute, 5-minute, respectful back and forth. We're working together to figure out how he determined that it's true. And if somebody realizes that I don't have a good reason, or the process that I used to get there is not reliable, and then you recircle back to the what, to the belief, and you ask them again, is that, can you really be so sure that it's true? They tend to walk back on it. And that's exactly what happened here. And I had a great opportunity to actually teach someone how to do it. And I had to say, shh, don't want to pause. Like, let him think about it. Marinate the pause. Sometimes when this happens all the time, you ask somebody a question, a profound question, and they're thinking about it, we tend to step on the pause, and we sense their uncomfortableness, and then we want to help them out. Oh, it's okay, don't interrupt them. Let them think it through. It's really hard to get past that, but try to let them think through. Okay, my last slide here, I've got like 4 minutes left, and then we can shift to a Q&A if you want. That's usually the most interesting part of the night. But if you want to wrap it up too, we can. Either way. But let me just say that up until street epistemology came along, there weren't a lot of people that were using this approach. There are actually a few people who message me and say, like, I never knew what to call it, but I've been doing what you're doing for like 30 years. I've asked people questions. There's now some structure. There's a naming. We have a freaking logo. There's actually a community of people who are using this method and going out and talking to people, or letting the talks happen organically. And it seems to be improving the conversations that we atheists are having with God believers for the better. It seems like we're having better conversations. It seems like they're enjoying it. And it seems like they're even moving off of their levels of confidence. I've met many people who used to believe in a God. I engaged with them using this method, and they don't believe in it anymore. There's actually an obligation part of this too that I didn't get into, but myself and people in the street epistemology community have a very good relationship with recovering from religion, because we can't just engage with somebody and leave them high and dry. They need a community to go to, which is why groups like this, groups like the SSA, groups like the Atheist Community of Austin, these are great landing places for people who have engaged in somebody using this method, and now they're looking for research and they're looking for a community. So, in closing, I think that street epistemology is a turning point for atheism. I think when the history books are written on the success of atheism in America, they will include chapters on street epistemology. And my question to you is, are you willing and able to help us make that happen? Thank you very much. So I'd rather cheaply title this question and answers, but this is the question and answer session. But you should always question the person's answers, including mine. And how much time do I have?
Oh, we're at 6:45 from
Okay, maybe 15 minutes. And feel free to get up and go to the bar or do that. It's all good. Question in the back.
Many local organizations use a Ask an Atheist booth set up in a public area. Is that an opportunity for street epistemology as well?
So the question is, you see all these opportunities, or you see all these booths like Ask an Atheist. They do this frequently in Austin. I don't know if they still do it, the SSA and UTSA, but I know that when you were president, you guys were doing it every day. These are absolutely opportunities to practice SE, or street epistemology. It can be a little challenging because you have to think of the venue. If you have three arguing God believers, harassing you at your table, it might be difficult. But if somebody genuinely comes up to you and says, why do you not believe? You can tell them why, and then you can engage with them about why they think that their belief is true. These are absolutely opportunities to engage. And there are lots of organic opportunities too. You get on an airplane and the person next to you opens a Bible, or they do the gesture that they're making a prayer. You can talk to them, build a little rapport, and then ask them if they want to have a discussion about why they think their God is real. Some people may feel uncomfortable doing that, but remind yourself that if you are respectful and you just focus on their what, their why, and their how, and you end it before things escalate too much, you're going to probably have a really good time. They're going to probably be grateful for it, and it's not going to be a big blow up like it was when I was yelling at street fraternity. That was a really good question. Thank you, Dan. Any other questions? Yes.
So in the process of getting somebody to question, how do you deal with the response of, my faith tells me so? For example, in the secret conversation, what if somebody says, well, I know I can't make my hand grow, but I know I can become a Dutch real estate salesman because my faith tells me.
Okay, so what happens, what do you do when someone says, I think this is true because my faith tells me so? Faith is one of those slippery baggage words that needs to be unpacked. Don't assume that you know what they mean when they say faith. Faith, I always make a tweet the other day. Faith is one of the most complicated words that I think humans have ever created. You need to first understand what they mean by the word. So ask them, how are you using that word? How are you defining that term? Can I write it down? I've had countless definitions of faith. They might say, faith is a feeling that it's true. Faith is hope that it's true. Faith is believing in something without evidence. Faith is, my goodness, what are the other words? Faith is trust. All right, so write it down. And you don't have to hold them to that definition. Sometimes, I'm actually going to release a video of this probably next week, where her definition of faith changed 4 times during the conversation. But each time I did, I wrote it down. But that's good. Like, we're gaining clarity. Clarity is a good thing, because once you understand the words that they're using, the meanings that they're assigning to those words, you can probably help them examine the steps they used to get there to possibly back off of their belief. Yeah, faith is a tricky word.
Is it possible to do that in Facebook? I mean, for instance, I put out a video about Vento or so, you know, I'm just there, and I don't know him very well, but he's one of the, my friends.
Okay.
And he said he's got a problem. And I didn't want to, offend him or anything, but I didn't know exactly like what to do with that.
Great question. So the question is,
what's wrong? My thing is, I don't agree with all his policies, but generally he's the right direction. So I guess the thing is, so I didn't know like what was the problem.
Right.
I guess I should have asked him what, but I didn't know,
let me repeat it back. I think what you're asking is, can you engage with somebody using street epistemology on social media like Facebook, Twitter? How do you go about doing it? I want to say that I have, it's a great question. I have used street epistemology on social media, but I think it's harder than face-to-face. And I think it's even harder when it's a family member. So if it's a friend or something like a loved one, it might be tricky.
I consider he was probably considered, and he was politely said that comment.
It makes it difficult because it's text-based. It's hard to infer what people mean. People in a text-based environment might be more apt to just send you a link to something to justify it rather than to actually engage with you. Other people on your wall might see the exchange and weigh in, or they like your nasty response, or they like his nasty response, and it's just this negative downward spiral. My suggestion on social media is to ask the person if they want to do like a private Facebook Messenger or video chat or meet over coffee. If you really feel that it's important, ask them.
It would have been better for me to ask him what he saw the problem, what the problem he saw there, and I didn't ask at the time. I could have said, what do you see as the problem, and just let it go with that, and then just describe what that is.
Here's the thing, when you decide to engage with somebody, you need to remind yourself that two people have to agree to do it. You want to make sure that they're consenting. So don't just say, I'm going to use SE or I'm going to argue with them. Ask them if they want to have a conversation with you. And if they say yes, then maybe offer to do like a breakout, like I'd say a Facebook Messenger thing or a face-to-face thing. That would be my advice, because it's so much more difficult over text. But text is a really good place. I'm going to grab this question here.
It's probably something because if and then everybody else sees it, so maybe you don't want it.
Yeah.
I think you can. I mean, I think you can have conversations on Facebook that are,
cordial,
in-depth
effective.
and
sure can.
Kind and in-depth.
She was saying, I think that you can have cordial, in-depth conversations on social media. And I think you can. I just think it's more challenging. And it seems like a lot gets lost in it. My preference is face-to-face, but of course you can have it. In fact, one of the benefits of doing it, like on your wall with other people watching, if they're smart enough to just lay low and listen, is that you can be modeling the behavior. So maybe next time they post something and you comment, you may be like, oh, I really should have really friendly back and forth. They might anticipate that kind of exchange with you at that point. Yeah.
In your experience, what's the best way to handle a potential interlocutor who tells you on the outset that they're never going to change their mind?
How do you deal with somebody who at the very start says, I'm not going to change my mind, I'm firm on this. You might want to just, number one, thank them for their honesty. Okay? It's kind of nice to know that rather than getting into it and having a 30-minute talk and they're like, I'm not going to budge on this. If you meet somebody who is dogmatic, street epistemology is so good about moving people off of their dogmatism. They're 100% sure, they might drop down to a 99 or 99. Okay, yeah, I can see how I might be mistaken on that. That's huge. But sometimes you meet people who are dogmatic. They just know that they know that they know. That sort of indignant credulity is really so fascinating. It's so frustrating, isn't it? One thing that I've tried doing is talking about not them, but somebody else who believes something different than them. Maybe something, let's say I'm talking to you, you're a Christian. I might bring up a conversation that I've really had with a Muslim who is dogmatic with their Quran. What advice would you have for dealing? How could we break through and help this person think about their belief? You can get them thinking about a fictitious conversation that they might have with somebody else who's dogmatic about a position that conflicts with theirs. And they may actually be telling you what you can use to get through to them. And that might open up the dialogue. I've done that a couple of times. That's a really good question. That's tough. But there are some people who are just, they just will not budge. Sometimes just talking about, well, what would be the impact of this on your life? How would your life be any different if you came to realize that Jesus wasn't real? You can start talking about the cost of it. They may realize, you know, well, there probably isn't really that much of a cost, right? I would be devastated. The conversation that I'm just going to be uploading next week is two ladies where one person says, yeah, I guess I would just probably have more time on my hands if I didn't believe this. And the other lady's like, I'd be devastated. And they were both sort of enjoying the interview. It was really cool seeing the juxtaposition of their beliefs. Yes?
You're the first preacher I've ever known that preached atheism.
Can I just address that really quick? Or did you have more?
I have a question.
Okay. Is it about the preaching thing?
In this time, you know, most of us kind of just float under the radar, don't talk about what our beliefs are, let them believe what they want to believe. But it's getting to be vitally important in our country, you know, to believe that science is what controls, you know, the facts control what happens with our environment, that women or families that know maybe that a big unborn baby is mongoloid or epileptic without a brain, they should have these choices, and it's the other preachers that say, you know, we can't do this. God's going to look at,
right.
You know.
So I think what you're saying is the stakes are so high to just not let these things just go under the bridge, that we should step up. And this is one of the reasons why I love talking about street epistemology so much, because it is polite, it's respectful, and the types of results, I'm not showing you results that are atypical. This is typically what happens. People tend to slow down, they tend to think about it, they tend to back off on their confidence levels. The stakes are too high to just let this go. The next time somebody offers to pray for you, that's an opportunity to engage with them. Do you mind if I ask you, are you just saying it to be social, or do you really think prayer works? You can engage with them and help them reflect on it, and then give them these set of tools so that they can use it later when somebody else makes a claim to them.
But you know, we usually go the opposite direction, because when my husband died or when my mother died, they want to have a Christian celebration, and everybody that's there generally is there because of their belief in faith, and that, you know, they're meeting my Father in heaven. And
so I think the point is that there are situations where you might just have the time to see it through, or I'm just not feeling good. Like, I'm sick, and I don't think I have the patience for this conversation right now. You can just let it go. It's one of the reasons why we want people to learn this method, so that if you let that person go, maybe somebody else will catch them and have that talk. And if they have a talk, great. And if somebody else has a secondary talk to them, they can get a little bit further down that way. So yeah, this is always a judgment call. And there are some people here that are like, I would never, ever consider questioning somebody's belief. I don't even argue with them, I don't ridicule them, I just ignore them. That's fine, but at least tell people about this method who might be willing to engage with them. You can help us by sharing the word about this method.
How do you approach people?
How do I approach people? So, yeah, like I said before, I prefer to do organic. Like, I'm in Uber, so I said something. But I have a camera, like a chest-mounted camera that's pointing down to the ground. And I have a little clipboard. And whether I'm at the UTSA campus or on trail, I ask people, do you have 5 minutes to chat about what people don't believe? I'm like, what's this all about? I would say 1 out of 5 people in San Antonio agree to talk. And I try to be upfront with what I'm doing. I say, I'm interested in, like, remember that triangle? I just go right down the triangle. I'm interested in what you think is true, why you think it's true, and how you determine that those reasons are reliable. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. I've never even heard of anything like that. It's like, yeah, I like to pick a belief that's very tied to your identity. Like, we can talk about if why you think paper bags are better than plastic. But I'm interested in the things that motivate you to behave differently. And they usually pick a supernatural claim, like they think a ghost is real or their God is real. Everything happens for a reason, karma, you name it, that type of stuff. That's how I usually go about doing it. And I ask them if they can kind of report it to me. They just say yes, and they report it. That's how I have to go about it. But again, you don't have to initiate like that. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You think you'll ever approach people that you work with, family members or friend wise in the past, or try this with them? Or do you think you'll be able to approach the folks that you feel that you work bridges with, or you're in LA, the local?
So the question is, do you feel that you can use this approach with people that you burned bridges with in the past? And I think you can. I wrote a blog post. It's on the street. Most people have cards for street epistemology. There's a blog. One of the blogs is called How to Use Street Epistemology with Loved Ones. And I talk about the possibility that you may have completely nuked that bridge. And if you want to engage with them again, there's some things that you can do. One is just to say, listen, I realized that the last time we talked, I was ridiculing you, and I was showing you facts, and I was kind of rude to you. I've learned this different way of talking to people called street epistemology. Do you mind if we re-engage again on that topic? You can be very clear about what you're doing. But I do think it's trickier with family. Here's my recommendation with family members, is that, let's say you have an aunt or a son or whatever, a family member, a friend. You don't have to engage with them on the sensitive God topic. Pick something very safe, you're very benign. Like you're driving down the road and they say, oh, that place closed last week because they got a bad rating by the health department. That's a perfect opportunity to explore what, why, how. And you can be that person in their life that always does that whenever they make a claim. You can be teaching them the method so that hopefully when they're alone with their thoughts and they think about inviting you to church, it's like, wait a second, that's the person that always asks me what I believe, why I believe it, and how did I determine that that's true. And they might start walking themselves through those steps. You don't even have to do it because you can talk them how to do it. So check out that blog post. I think it'll be really useful. Yeah.
You showed us some nice videos of successes. You also have some videos of failures.
There is a blooper reel. Yeah. Where's the blooper reel? Well, I thought I showed it at the start. That's the one with the preacher. That's probably a blooper reel. Sometimes I have people who I ask them if they want to talk about, they think that their God is real. And I'm like, yeah, we can talk about that. But then they want to know where I stand on it. And I'm okay sharing my stance on the claim. And I might say, well, on a scale from 0 to 100, I'm like, it is at like a 1% that God is real. And they just like, you can see they just shut down. And they just cross their arms, they want to go away. I've had some conversations like that. They're rare and far and few between. I can't think of too many. Usually what happens is the conversations get off track when I'm not listening to them. I'm not repeating back what they're saying. I'm not clarifying. I'm not pausing. And maybe even if I make a joke, a harmless joke, they might misinterpret it, and I'm laughing at them. Things kind of blow up. So I think I have a playlist on my YouTube channel called Fails and Fails, where you can see some of those that didn't go so well. Yeah, that could happen.
What do you think when you know what happened in Sutherland Springs at a church, and those people still have as strong a belief as ever?
Oh. The question is, you mean like a shooting? There's a church shooting?
Well, that thank God that the shooter was there. I mean, that the shooter was
So
killed.
I think when they summarize the question, it's something like, what do you do when you encounter somebody who, like, they see something just horrible happen, but they're able to justify in their mind? Well, you ask them, how are they drawing those connections? How can you still believe? Don't get too wrapped up in the emotion, because what is upsetting you may make total sense to them. That was an act by Jesus because those people are good and now they're up in heaven. You don't know what they're using to get there. It may not make sense to us, but that's what we have to engage with them. God's plan. Yeah. Try to figure out what they mean by God, why they think their God is real, what's their main reason why, confirm it. Right? Here's a really good tip: is that somebody may say, "Well, I believe in God because the Bible is true." You may say, "Well, why do you think the Bible is true?" They say, "Well," and they may say, "Well, it clearly shows how old the earth is." Here's a pro tip. Ask them if they would lower their confidence if it could be shown to their satisfaction that the earth is really old and not young. And if they say, "Oh no, I'd still believe it with just as much confidence," that's not the reason why. And you do that a number of times, and then you get to the actual reason why. And you're just, remember with Denzel, talking about going with him wouldn't have got us anywhere. There was something else problematic. Figure out what that is, and then focus on it, and then see what's the problem. One more question? Yes, sir.
Earlier, you brought up where an individual said, I couldn't stop believing just because it would be just too devastating.
Yeah.
It would tear apart my family. It would, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have confidence to go on. Devastated. How do you, what approach do you take with that?
So the question is, what approach do you take when you meet somebody who says, I couldn't go on if I didn't think that this was true? If I didn't think that Allah was real, I would go on a shooting spree. I'd go on a shooting spree. I would harm people or I'd harm myself. I can't imagine that this is the case. I have had people say that. Number one, if they're serious, end the conversation. But also, don't just give up so quickly, because sometimes people say these things because that's what they were taught to say. Remember Gordon, at an early age, he may have just been taught that you'll just go on a shooting spree if you don't believe that this is true. He might be the nicest person any of us have ever met, and would still be if he didn't think that his God was real. So ask them. I know it might sound far-fetched, but if you came to the realization that God wasn't real, would you really start hurting people yourself? And they might say, no, I wouldn't do that. Then you can proceed. So, but there are times, I wrote another blog post about this, it's called When to Abstain from Street Epistemology. I think that there are times where it's not a good idea to proceed, because there are people who, they need these beliefs. They are preventing them from harming themselves. They're really core to their identity, and they would just be totally lost with it. I would just say, if you confirm that that's the case, then just move on. That happened once on the UTSA campus where I was talking to a young woman who was a pagan, and she thought that there was a goddess protecting her. The way that she was carrying herself, I thought to myself, I can ask her 3 questions, and she's probably going to be less confident that this is true. And I asked her, I said, what would your life be like if you didn't have this belief? And she said, I'd be devastated. And it seemed like she meant it, so I ended the conversation. Interestingly, a little side note, she emailed me about 5 hours later saying that she enjoyed the talk and that she wanted to meet again. because she wants to believe true things. She wants to believe true things, despite the cost. She was open to it, and she was willing to pay the cost of getting rid of a belief that gave her comfort.
Did you pursue it?
I did meet her again. Yeah.
Did she change it?
Yes. That one, it's actually kind of sad because they were two great conversations to show where she was, and then she dropped. But then she messaged me and said, "Look, I'm looking for jobs now, and I don't really want that video on there. Could you please take the video down?" So, okay. I tried to negotiate, I kind of blur it, kind of keep out your name. She wasn't budging it, so I had to pull the video down. But at least I can talk about it and share it with folks. Do you have a question? Do you have a question? No. All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.